Baby always on the news for everything but his music?
Shit, I don't even know. Like, I can't even tell you that. Like,
him and his entourage are now being accused of causing 49ers NFL player to be popped in the foot because he wouldn't let them into his private party.
Bruh, if your people can't take a simple "you not invited" without turning the night into violence, you don't have a crew, you got a liability. And that's why I don't feel bad when the consequences show up, because everybody loves the street aura until the cameras start rolling and the casings start talking. Shooting a pro athlete, that's not standing on business.
Stupid.
That's sending a bat signal to everybody with a badge, a budget, and a reason to make an example. So yeah, Lil Baby circle might have just cost him everything. Not because he can't rap, not because he fell off, because his environment still moves like jail is a hobby. Bruh, I gotta start it right here. If your circle can't take a simple "you not invited," you already living on borrowed time, because that's not a misunderstanding. That's not a little scuffle. That's a temperament problem. That's ego addiction. That's a group of grown men who only feel alive when something is about to go left. And the reason I'm on this so hard is because people keep pretending these situations are random, like it's lightning, like it's wrong place, wrong time. Nah, this is what happens when your environment is built around disrespect and reaction. You can be a millionaire and still be broken to mind, still chasing validation, still needing to prove something to people who don't even pay your bills.
Stupid.
So when I say Lil Baby's circle might have just cost him everything, I'm not being dramatic. I'm describing a pattern that ends the same way every time. All right, let's walk it down. Super Bowl weekend. Everybody outside, everybody partying. That whole city energy where people think rules don't apply because it's a big weekend. Now add nightlife to that. Clubs, private events, people trying to feel important, people trying to be seen. And when you mix celebrity with entitlement, bruh, that's gasoline. And according to what's being reported in the news coverage and the police framing, this wasn't some random shots on the corner. This started inside a business, inside a venue, meaning staff, witnesses, cameras, a timeline. That detail matters because some people hear shots fired and they imagine some dark alley where nobody saw nothing. Nah, this is the type of setting where everybody saw something. They just don't want to say it out loud yet. So already the "we'll keep it street" mindset is in trouble because the environment itself is a snitch. Now here's where it gets pathetic, not tragic pathetic, because what's being described is not some deep war. It's not some lifelong beef. It's that basic moment, this is private, you can't come in. And according to the report being discussed, the witness account is basically saying Lil Baby's entourage is on the main floor trying to enter a private event and an argument pops off. Somebody goes to get staff and then shots ring out. Bruh. So we went from "can we get in" to now somebody bleeding. That's the whole story right there. That escalation tells you everything you need to know about the mindset in that room. And I'm telling you, this is why separation isn't a PR statement. Separation is logistics. Separation is not being in places where access becomes a trigger. Separation is having people around you who can hear no and just go somewhere else. Because no is not disrespect. No is just no. But when your circle is built on pride, they hear no like it's somebody spitting on your mother. That's where the crash out starts. And here's the part people keep missing. Once an NFL player gets hit, this stops being internet chatter. This stops being blogger content. This becomes business. A pro athlete is an asset, period. Contracts, games, performance, team investment. And when an asset gets damaged, the whole machine wakes up. Even if the victim doesn't want to talk, the organization can still move. The city can still move. The investigators can still move. Because now it's not just a guy got shot. It's a high value employee got injured at an event tied to a celebrity presence. And that's why this feels like a bat signal, because it brings resources you don't normally see when it's just two random dudes. Cameras get pulled faster. Witnesses get leaned on harder. Pressure gets applied quietly behind closed doors. To me, this is where the street code fantasy dies, because you can't code your way out of surveillance footage. You can't code your way out of shell casings. You can't code your way out of people protecting $1 million interests. So yeah, if Lil Baby needed one thing, it was separation. And if his circle really did what it looks like they did around him, bruh, that separation just became mandatory. All right, so boom. One of the details that jumped out is how the victim was described as uncooperative. And I already know what that's about. A lot of dudes who come from a certain environment, they treat cooperation like it's worse than getting shot, like it's some moral failure. So they sit there acting like, I don't know, I ain't see nothing. But here's the part that's gonna hurt people's feelings. The street code only works when the street is the judge. When you're in a business with cameras, staff, witnesses, and an entire organization looking at millions on the line,
you're gonna learn today. You're gonna learn with a long.
Your silence is just a speed bump, because the case doesn't need you to talk if the room is talking. The timeline talks, the footage talks, the shell casings talk, the phone records talk, the staff talks, the people leaving talk. So yeah, be solid all you want. The evidence is gonna snitch for you. And I'm saying that to make this bigger point. When you're a grown man with real money, you can't live half in business and half in street fantasy. You pick one, because the second you touch business money with street behavior, the business side is coming to collect. Now let's talk about the stuff that makes this situation feel like it's not going to just disappear. They're talking surveillance footage being pulled. They're talking shell casings being recovered. And then you hear that detail about an abandoned phone. Bruh, that's the kind of thing that turns a mystery into a documentary, because people always think the police got to catch you in the act. Nah, you catch yourself. You leave breadcrumbs. You forget something. You drop something. You get recorded from 3 angles you didn't even know existed. And in a club environment, it's even worse, because you got security cameras. You got people filming for their stories. You got staff who know exactly who came in and who didn't. You got the door. You got the hallway, you got the exit. So when people say no suspect has been identified, that just means the paperwork hasn't finished talking yet. That's all that means. To me, this is one of those situations where the truth is already sitting on the hard drive somewhere. It's just a matter of who the footage points to first. Now the casings detail, that's not small, because when you hear 9mm and .45 casings, that screams chaos. That suggests either multiple shooters or multiple guns involved, or a situation where people started pulling out heat like it was a movie. And that's exactly how you know this wasn't security doing a clean job. This was panic, this was ego, this was overreaction. And here's what's nasty about that. The more guns involved, the more chances of someone talking, the more chances of someone slipping, the more chances of somebody getting caught on camera, the more chances of somebody leaving evidence behind. It's also why these stories never stop at the initial incident, because once you got multiple people with weapons around a celebrity, investigators don't just look at the shooting. They start looking at the circle. They start asking, who are these guys? Why are they armed? Where they come from, who funds them, who travels with them, what else been happening. And that's when it gets dark, because one night can turn into a whole map, because people keep acting like the celebrity is the muscle. Most of the time, the celebrity is just the brand. The entourage, they're the volatility. They're the ones who feel like they have to prove something every 5 minutes. They're the ones who think crashing out is loyalty. And it's a sick incentive, because the celebrity gets all the benefit of being protected, but all the risk of being associated. So you end up with this dynamic where dudes who have nothing to lose are making life-changing decisions around a man who has everything to lose. And they don't even feel the weight of it. They'll say, I did it for you.
Fuck you, bitch. Shut the fuck up, bitch. Back the fuck up. I'll knock the fuck out you.
Damn, man.
Hey.
Whole time, they did it for their ego. They did it to feel important. They did it to feel like the enforcer. And that's why I keep saying separation is not a brand statement. Separation is choosing people who don't need violence to feel valuable. Because if your circle is addicted to chaos, eventually chaos is gonna pick you. Bruh, I need you to really sit with how small the spark was compared to how big the fire got. Because when the reported trigger is basically, nah, you can't come in, that is not life or death. That's not survival. That's not even real disrespect. That's a door. That's a policy. That's somebody protecting a private event. But ego don't hear policy. Ego hears humiliation. Ego hears you not important. Ego hears somebody just little broed you. And if your identity is built on being the man, that moment feels like an attack. So now it's not about getting into the party. It's about restoring pride.
You think you're a man with a gun in your hand, don't you?
It's about who you talking to. It's about, do you know who this is? It's about, You can't do that to us. And that's when the whole thing gets dangerous. And the problem with pride is pride loves witnesses. Pride loves an audience. Pride gets louder when women are around. Pride gets louder when cameras might be around. Pride gets louder when your people around you are egging it on. Then you add the entourage factor, and this is where it goes left every time. Because once your people get involved, it stops being one person's decision. Now it's group pride. Now it's we can't let that happen. Now it's we gotta respond. And that's how a no turns into a nightmare. Not because the situation was serious, but because the people involved are addicted to escalation. To me, that's the real villain. Not the door, not the party, not the location. Ego, fragile pride, grown men who can't take a loss without making it everybody's problem. Now let's talk consequences. Real consequences, not internet consequences. Because the moment a professional athlete gets injured, you're not just dealing with the shooting, you're dealing with business. You're dealing with money, contracts, recovery timelines, performance, team investment, liability.
Today your ass is gonna die, bitch. Say goodnight, motherfucker.
That's a whole machine waking up. And people keep thinking, well, if nobody talks, it goes away. Nah, silence doesn't erase evidence. Silence doesn't delete footage. Silence doesn't sweep up shell casings. Silence doesn't unring the bell. Here's the ladder. First, no suspect yet. Reviewing surveillance, interviewing staff, identifying who was present. Phones and records get pulled. People start getting pressured. Somebody tries to save themselves. Names get attached. Then charges or lawsuits become real. And you want to know the scary part? You don't even have to pull the trigger to feel the heat. If you're there, if your people are there, if your name is attached to the environment, you can still get dragged into consequences. Because money people don't care about your aura. They care about accountability. Who created the risk? Who escalated the situation? Who is responsible? Who pays? Who gets blamed? Who gets sued? So the consequences don't just hit the shooter, they hit the brand, they hit the circle, they hit relationships, they hit opportunities, they hit your ability to move around without being a headline. And when the story involves a high value victim, it brings extra attention, more pressure, more urgency, more resources, more we're not letting this slide, even if nobody says that part out loud. That's why this doesn't feel like a regular club incident to me. It feels like the kind of situation where the system keeps pulling the thread until the sweater comes apart. Now here's the part that separates grown moves from childish moves. Separation. A lot of people think separation is a statement. I'm different now. I'm away from that. I don't do that. Okay, cool. But separation is not what you say. It's what your life looks like at 4 a.m. Because if you're truly separated, you're not even in a position where access turns into conflict. You're not even in a position where your entourage is arguing at the door like they're teenagers trying to sneak into a function.
Stupid.
You don't even let the situation form. Real separation is logistics. It's planning, it's invites, it's private security that de-escalates. It's a team that says, we leaving. It's people around you who understand you have more to lose than to prove. And the real danger isn't always ops. The real danger is the people closest to you who still get excited when it's time to crash out because they don't pay the price the same way. They might get locked up and that becomes their story, but you lose endorsements. You lose leverage. You lose your brand. You lose peace. You lose time. You lose opportunities. And what makes it nasty is how it gets packaged. I did it for you. I protected you. I stood on business.
How, Sway?
Nah, sometimes that's not protection. Sometimes that's ego using you as an excuse. So when I say he needed separation, I mean actual separation. New circle, new rules, new environment, new people who don't need chaos to feel loyal. Because a bad circle will ruin your life and call it love every single time.
And you know what though? That's typically how the bullshit goes. You feel me?
So yeah, this is bigger than one night. This is the oldest pattern in the book. Money goes up, wisdom doesn't. Ego stays the same, the circle stays the same, and eventually the system collects. That's the cycle. And what makes this particular situation feel extra serious is the mix of ingredients: nightlife setting, inside a business altercation, witnesses, staff, cameras, physical evidence like casings, reported surveillance review, and the fact the injured person is a professional athlete. That combination changes the incentives for everybody involved. It brings pressure from places the average person never deals with. Not just street pressure, but corporate pressure, legal pressure, organizational pressure, public pressure. So even if people try to act like it's nothing, the reality is it's already something. The moment it happened, it became something. The moment an athlete gets hit, it becomes something. And that's why I keep saying your enemies are not always the biggest threat. Sometimes your circle is the threat. The people around you who turn small moments into permanent consequences. If you can't take no without violence, you're not tough. You're unstable. If you can't walk away from a door, you're not a boss. You're a child with money. To me, the story is simple. A circle that loves chaos will eventually find chaos. And once it finds it, everybody pays. Not just the one who made the dumb decision. Man, when I zoom out on this whole thing, it's the same lesson wearing a new outfit. People level up in money, level up in access, level up in fame, but they never level up in emotional control. They never level up in circle selection. And then they act surprised when the same old chaos shows up in a more expensive location. Because that's what a bad circle does. It turns tiny moments into life-changing consequences. A door policy becomes a pride battle. A pride battle becomes violence. Violence becomes paperwork. And paperwork becomes a whole machine that does not get tired. It don't need you to confess. It don't need you to keep it real. It just needs time, footage, and one person who decides they not going down alone. And the part that really gets me is how normalized it is. Like it's cool to crash out. Like it's cool to treat the penitentiary like some rite of passage. That's only cool until it's your money, your freedom, your family, your career, your peace. Then everybody want to act grown. So if there's any takeaways, this: if your people make you feel powerful in the moment but put your future in danger, they are not your people. They're your problem. And if you're a pro athlete, a rapper, anybody with real value, hanging around the wrong mix of ego and insecurity is one of the most dangerous things you can do, period. But let me ask you this. Do you think Lil Baby is truly separate from that life? Or do you think his circle just exposed that he never really left? And if you enjoyed this video, you should watch this one next. Click now, and I'll see you on the next one. Panda out.